Hey, what is going on, everybody? East Tactics here, coming at you with a new video, and this is the next video in the M2C Explained series. And as you can guess, this video is all about the shock towers from M2C. So as you can see right here, I've actually got a set of towers from Basher Queen, and then I've got a set of towers from M2C. These are for the V5 or the EXB. And then I've got a set of towers from M2C. These are for the V4 Kraton. And then this here is the V4 shock tower from just Bashed RC. And last but not least, right here we've got the V4 shock tower stock out of the box from the factory if you happen to buy a V4. So, but before we get into the details about these shock towers, I want to point out a giveaway in this video. So, what are we going to be giving away? All that and a bag of chips of your choice. Doritos, Lay's, Ruffles. Okay, so what do we have here? We've got a 3D printed mount, extremely bendable, from 3D RC, and this is that set. We've also got a bumper of your choice. Now this one happens to be the one for the EXB, but if you've got a different rig, I may have the bumper for you. Also, if you've got a different rig in regards to the 3D printed wing mount, like you've got the Italian or the Typhon or something, or the Centon, I have the low profile wing mount as well, so you just have to let me know if you do win this drawing. The other thing that I'm going to be giving away is a shock tower for the EXB or the V5. This is the rear, this one is the front. So, front and rear shock towers. And then here, these are out drives, a set of 3, so you can replace all 3 of your differentials with hardened steel out drives. So, giving all this away today, what do you need to do to win this? Well, leave a comment. Simple as that. So, leave a comment basically saying, hey, what's up, East Tactics, would love to win this, and you'll be in the drawing. All right, so what is it that makes M2C's shock towers the best shock towers you can get? Well, first and foremost, let me explain that shock towers can be made out of, you can either make a shock tower out of steel, you can make a shock tower out of aluminum, you can make a shock tower out of carbon fiber, or you can make a shock tower out of titanium. So what is it that makes these different metals used in the RC industry? Well, carbon fiber from Basher Queen if you're looking to build something much lighter. So if you wanted to basically build a light build, you would do carbon fiber everywhere you can, from the shock towers to the braces to the, even, you know, if you can find a carbon fiber chassis, really just go the gusto with carbon fiber. Now, where does carbon fiber sit in the realm of strength and bashing? Well, it is going to be the weakest of the 4 that I just brought up. Now, the vehicle is going to be a ton lighter, so you're going to find that potentially it could be as strong as its counterparts because it's much lighter. That said, the next lightest of these 4 options, be it carbon fiber, aluminum, titanium, or steel, is aluminum. Now, aluminum, the alloy itself, there are different T grades, all the way from 1 to I think 10, and they all have their different attributes, but T6 is the most renowned and strongest form of thermally treating these metals. So basically the temper or the degree of hardness, T6 is basically a solution heat treat. It's basically heat treated and then artificially aged to a point where it becomes stronger than many milder metals even. So T6 aluminum is the actual product that you're going to find in extremely high-end, like aircraft machinery, you know, machines that they're going to be using to take into outer space, because its benefit over metal is that it is literally 1/3 about of the weight. So basically metal is 66% heavier than aluminum. The thing is aluminum, you need more of it to match some of the strengths of your higher end metals. So like for example, the piston industry This is an example of 3 different pistons where one is made out of metal, the other is made out of aluminum, and the other is made out of titanium. You'll notice that the aluminum part in the middle is much more thick. It's much more tanky looking, and the strength is the same as the metal that's there on the far left. Now that that component, the aluminum, has been increased in thickness, it still weighs less than that metal one on the left. In the case of needing to thicken it up to a certain, fatness so that it matches the strength of the metal that's there, it's generally you're gonna see about a 15 to 20% decrease in weight. But in many circumstances, that decrease in weight is highly coveted and wanted. So in the RC industry, having a much lighter weight metal that can be the equivalent of your high-end metals is way more preferred. So that is why you'll find a company like M2C who literally doubles the thickness in the parts that matter so that it becomes stronger or as strong as the scenario where you would be using, let's say, a high-grade metal. Now, just to kind of clear up another thing that I wanted to mention about aluminum, and there's another popular grade that's actually instead of being 775, there's another one that's 6061. 6061 versus 775. The reason why some manufacturers use, and you'll see the 6061 used in other third-party, third-party manufacturers of RC parts. Now, the tensile strength of 7075 is actually 2 times that of 6061 aluminum, and the shear strength is actually 1.5 times that of 6061. So M2C, having gone with the 7075 T6 as opposed to 6061, it deserves to be pointed out because it's a huge attribute to go toward basically their motto, which is quality before easiness. So kudos to M2C for doing that. Now, when it comes to the V5 shock towers front and back, you'll notice the same concept applies. They have this massive thick section around the whole center of the rear tower, which lends a huge amount of strength to the part. Let's take a close look at this Just Bash It RC shock tower, and you'll find that actually the first thing I want to point out is that it is bent. So you notice how there is a bend to this. It's a little bit hard to see unless I put it down on a flat surface. And then you can see. So I had this installed for quite some time, and I did use the tower brace here, which I feel like lent a huge amount to preventing this bend from being about 10 times worse. So definitely recommend using the tower brace. But if you look at this piece, you'll notice that it's pretty much 6 millimeters across the board throughout, and it gets a little bit thinner in like this area right here, but as a whole it's 6 millimeters. And while this is the same grade material as M2C, you'll notice that M2C built this amazing structural thickness that basically will prevent any sort of bending like you see in this Just Bash It RC. This right here is 9 millimeters thick all the way around. That whole centerpiece is just straight up beefed out to the umpteenth degree. Now the reason why, you might think to yourself, well, why is it that this little wing doesn't keep that 6 millimeter or that 9 millimeter thickness? And for the most part, there's 2 reasons. One is because, you know what, you might as well cut down on the weight a little bit, because the likelihood of this little section here bending is very, very negligible. That you also want to just kind of stick with the classic thickness, because all of your manufactured shock standoffs have a threading level that, if you were to basically try to punch this through 9 millimeters, you would have hardly anything to screw onto. That's probably the other reason. But anyway, so that right there is absolutely huge. And you'll notice that it's countersunk on both these sections here to allow for you're not going to end up needing to use longer screws. You'll be able to use the same screws that you've already have holding on whatever shock tower you currently have. So let's take a look at the weight. The Just Bash It RC comes in at 3.15 ounces. And the M2C rear shock tower comes in at 3.60. So naturally, the M2C shock tower is slightly heavier, even though the Just Bash It RC has more material along these edges and in the center because of that 9mm thickness through this whole section here, which again is a design characteristic. Check out the weight on the V5 or EXB rear shock tower. Basically 3.20, which is just 0.05 ounces heavier than this Just Bash It RC shock tower. And then if you guys are going for the extreme light build with the Basher Queen, this is how much a shock tower of carbon fiber actually weighs. Literally 1/3 of the weight. So just to kind of keep in mind, any component that you build with carbon fiber, while it's not as strong as aluminum, is 1/3 the weight. So they designed it to fit around their tower brace. Now, let's take a close look at comparing the V5 and the V4. So you'll notice, first and foremost, that the shock holes are in a drastically different place, which is why you need to use the EXB A-arms or the V5 A-arms with this shock tower, because the geometry of the spacing for the shock to go down is way different. So watch this video right here if you want more details on the compatibility issues between the A-arms and the V4 and the V5 and the EXB. Okay, now you'll notice though that if you're going to be using the shock tower brace with this V5, you do have to muscle through 9mm of thickness on the V5 or EXB shock tower. But M2C does provide you with the drill bit when you buy this shock tower brace, and they're quality drill bits. So just keep that in mind though. You've got to get through a much more meatier piece when you're using the EXB or the V5 shock tower. So the other thing that I wanted to show you guys today is when placing the shock tower on like so, the flat side comes on the inside of the vehicle, the decorative side faces outward. And especially if you have a composite or a stock bulkhead, you're going to want to put the screw through that goes through this bottom. So there's 4 mounting points on the shock tower. There's one here and here, and then likewise on the other side. Now classically from stock, they just give you a screw that goes through and just taps right into the plastic. But what you want to do is you want to pick up a set of screws that are longer, about 4 to 6 millimeters longer, that actually extends past this little nub so that you can end up putting on an M3 lock nut. This is crucial for the strength and the leverage when you come down hard, especially if you're not using one of these shock tower braces. But I'm gonna tell you right now, guys, and I'll be making a video on the shock tower brace shortly in the M2C Explained series. You definitely want to have a shock tower brace. These pieces are absolutely crucial for these ARRMA vehicles, and I mean, honestly, they should be a standard piece that comes from stock, to be honest with you. But we'll get into this in another video. Anyway, so what I was going to tell you is, when you're putting this on, you have an M3 nut. Now notice I've got a good 6 millimeters. We're going to take our M3 nut and we're going to put this on. Now, being that I have an aluminum bulkhead, the likelihood of the leverage from a bad landing stripping this out is less likely because of the aluminum threads. However, I still put this lock nut on even though I have an aluminum bulkhead. So if you've got a composite bulkhead, this little tactic or mod is crucial. Do it, and you know, if you can find a screw that ends up going through the wing mount, like for instance this screw right here that is used for your wing mount, if you can actually find a screw for this that's an additional, you know, 6 to 8 millimeters long, that after you put this thing through like so, it ends up popping out right here, you know, 4 millimeters, and putting a nut on this as well, I would say do it. But even more importantly, I would say doing it to this one. So yeah, just wanted to show you that modification. All right, guys, be sure to stay tuned for my next video, which is going to be going over in great detail the differences between the shock standoffs that you can find out there. This is a third-party variant. This right here is the stock version from the V4 class. I'm also going to be showing you in detail the version that comes with the EXB, and this right here is the M2C's version. What makes M2C's, why it's the best. Stay tuned for that video. I'll also be dropping a video on the M2C shock tower brace and its importance in your rig. So thanks again, guys. Don't forget, if you want to win a front and rear shock tower from M2C, as well as 3 M2C out drives for your differentials and a 3DRC wing mount, just leave a comment in this video. I'll leave the comment section in this video open for about a week, and then I'll announce when I'm drawing through the standard protocol, which is doing random selection. Thanks again, guys, for watching my videos. I will see you guys in the next video. East Tactics, out.